For most of human history, physics painted a very comforting picture of reality. The universe was made of matter, solid spheres moving through an empty void. Stars ignited, galaxies collided, and atoms combined, whether anyone was there to witness them or not. Look at the brass and glass instruments of the 19th century. They represent an era of extreme confidence. Physics was a calm, completely predictable discipline. The laws of nature were absolute, and the universe was treated like an enormous, intricate clockwork mechanism that ticked along independently of us. But that absolute certainty collapsed. Physicists decided to look deeper, past the solid objects and into the bizarre behavior of individual atoms. And they uncovered a tiny laboratory anomaly. They found that the basic building blocks of reality act very differently when we aren't looking at them. Here is an animated diagram showing the famous double-slit experiment, scaled all the way down. We are firing electrons, the tiny particles that orbit the atoms in your body, toward a wall with two narrow openings, one single piece at a time. Because an electron is a tiny chunk of matter, you would expect it to travel in a straight line and strike the back screen exactly like a tiny bullet. But as the electrons arrive, one by one, over time, they arrange themselves into a pattern of alternating bright and dark bands. That is an interference pattern, and water waves do it when they ripple through two openings. A lone electron, traveling entirely by itself, is somehow spreading out and exploring every possible path at exactly the same time, existing as a wave of pure probability. If we simply want to know which slit the particle actually went through, we can place a tiny detector at the doorways to watch it. The instant we observe it, the wave behavior vanishes. The spread as possibilities collapses, and the electron commits to a definite path, hitting the screen as a solid little pellet. The universe behaves one way when we watch, and another way when we don't. Physicists call this the measurement problem. There is a glaring gap in the mathematics, where a hazy cloud of unobserved possibilities somehow snaps into a single definite fact, the exact moment an interaction takes place. If observing the electron forces it to pick a location, we have to ask what actually counts as an observation. A physical detector is just made of atoms, too. Following the theory's own logic, the detector shouldn't force a solid outcome. It should simply become entangled with the electron, joining it in that shimmering cloud of quantum possibilities. You can read the detector's screen, but your eyes and your optic nerve are also just collections of atoms. As the signal travels into the brain, the fog of probability should only grow larger, swallowing each new physical system without ever resolving into a single, definite reality. A mathematician named John von Neumann mapped this out, and it led some of the sharpest minds of the 20th century to a bold proposal. They argued the chain of probability has to stop somewhere, and the only thing that never feels like a blur of possibilities is your own conscious awareness. Perhaps the moment a conscious mind perceives the result is the exact moment the universe finally snaps into a single outcome. Granting human awareness the power to make reality solid sounds elegant until you test it against the actual history of the cosmos. When you do that, the logic completely devours itself. Let's run the whole tape backward. Rewind the universe 13.8 billion years to the very beginning. Long before the first star ignited, before a single cell divided, the cosmos was a dark, intensely hot expanse of glowing plasma. There were no brains, no eyes, and absolutely no conscious observers to watch any of it happen. This image captures the cosmic microwave background. It is a map of the oldest light we can detect, released roughly 380,000 years after the beginning, when the first neutral atoms formed and the primordial fog finally lifted. That light began traveling across the vacuum of space, proving that massive physical events were solidifying in complete silence, completely unobserved. Look at the massive ancient galaxies in this deep space photograph. Astronomers have found grand structures assembling themselves in the cosmic dawn, billions of years before our planet even existed. The universe was grinding on, forging elements in the cores of stars, with no audience. The elements that eventually built your brain were forged in those ancient stellar furnaces. If reality requires an aware mind to collapse into a solid state, How could the universe build the observer, using specific atoms over billions of years, without an observer already there to make those atoms real? To escape this trap, modern physics offers a different mechanism, one that doesn't require a conscious mind at all. It is a strictly physical process known as decoherence. In the real world, a delicate quantum particle is never truly isolated. It is ceaselessly bombarded by stray photons, air molecules, and thermal radiation. The instant the particle brushes against any of these, it becomes entangled with the environment. The surrounding universe acts as a blind measurement, instantly washing away the fragile wave of quantum possibilities. The larger the object, the faster this leakage happens. A coffee cup sitting on your desk interacts with billions of particles in a tiny fraction of a second. That is why you never see a coffee cup in two places at once. The environment is constantly measuring it, forcing it to remain classical and solid before you ever walk into the room. Decoherence neatly explains how the quantum fog clears without our help, but it leaves a massive gap. It tells us why we don't see a menu of blurry possibilities, but it completely fails to explain why the universe selects the one specific solid outcome that you actually experience. Hunting for a physical object to trigger reality lands us in an old philosophical trap. If an observer makes a system definite, what makes the observer definite? Another observer watching them? It sparks an avalanche that never stops, a hall of mirrors philosophers call an infinite regress. You can calculate every confirmed quantum prediction to staggering precision without ever writing down a symbol for a conscious mind. Physics describes perfectly how the world behaves, but the equations were never designed to explain why there is a definite world here to be described at all. By trying to track the exact moment a particle becomes real, the most rigorous science humanity has ever produced stumbled backward into a 3,000-year-old theological mystery, leaving us standing in front of three possible exits. The first exit is strict physicalism. The universe is just a vast, cold machine, endlessly interacting with itself. In this view, reality doesn't care if it's being watched, and our conscious experience is nothing but a temporary, accidental byproduct of complicated matter. The second exit relies on quantum information theory. It suggests that matter is an illusion. Strip away the substance, and the universe is built entirely out of pure information, answers to yes or no questions. On this path, the physical world might actually arise inside awareness, like a landscape forming inside a dream. The third exit turns to an idea whispered in ancient temples long before equations existed. The regress stops because reality is held in the unbroken gaze of an eternal witness, an ultimate, timeless awareness that needs no physical brain, sustaining the universe simply by knowing it. Here is the most unsettling part. There is currently not a single physical experiment that can distinguish between these three radically different universes. The true foundation of reality remains completely up for grabs. But notice the one undeniable fact we skipped over. You are made of atoms gathered from dead stars, assembled over unthinkable stretches of time into a creature that can look up and understand the sky. Structurally, you are a piece of the universe, and you are aware. The universe, through you, has opened an eye to witness itself. So we are left where we began. If a menu of possibilities only becomes a solid reality once it is known, then what exactly is doing the knowing? The ultimate answer to how the cosmos works might not be buried in the math or lost out among the ancient galaxies. It might be the very awareness experiencing these words right now.